The View hosts have got themselves into hot water again after they did the very thing they purport to be against, undermining women's success. Joy Behar stunned viewers when she said Donald Trump's press secretary, 27-year-old Karoline Leavitt, only secured her position because of her good looks.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous administration.
The comment was bizarre, especially coming from Joy Behar, who is as woke as they come and positions herself as a champion of feminism. This online commentator said, disgusting Joy Behar of The View accuses Karoline Leavitt of being hired only because Donald Trump thought she was a 10.
The fallout from the latest controversy on The View has turned into yet another harsh lesson in what happens when the hosts underestimate their guests. This time, the focus was on Karoline Leavitt, a young, outspoken conservative political strategist who has been making waves in the media. The moment Joy Behar smugly dismissed her as unqualified and insinuated that she was only given her position because of her looks, it was clear that The View had yet again stepped over the line. But unlike the hosts, Leavitt was fully prepared to respond. Instead of ignoring the insult, she fired back with confidence, skillfully dismantling Behar's condescending remarks and calling out the hypocrisy in The View's so-called feminist stance.
Let's talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a to democracy for the better half of 10 years. Let's talk about how they have compared him to one of the worst mass in the history of the world, and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden weaponized the court system and the justice system in this country against Donald Trump in an attempt to imprison him. He sat through a courthouse for 7 weeks this past year, and the Democrats were hoping he would go to jail for it. That is real political that has led to 2 heinous attempts on President Trump's life that, by the grace of God, he was able to escape, and he is here with us today. So yes, President Trump knows a little bit about political violence because he's experienced it himself. And talking about the tragic realities of war that Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney, have got this country into is not political. It's talking about the reality of the foreign conflicts that the Washington, D.C. establishment have sold out young Americans to for decades.
Yet, of course, after those attempted attempts on the former president's life, his opponents reached out to him and said they do not accept political. That has been a key difference. I do want to play you.
No, please. His opponents are saying to this very day the same rhetoric that led to those 2 attempts. The second attempted on President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie. And yes, you will take political, like we have seen in 2 instances against President Trump. Last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was a That's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the Democrat Party every single day. And I'm so sick and tired of the media pointing the finger at Donald Trump and saying that he is sowing division in this country. He is not. The media is for pushing hoaxes like the one that you all pushed today, and the Democrat Party is for pushing lies about him. But the good news is Americans don't buy it. And that's why today in 2024, President Trump is more popular than he has been since 2016, because people don't trust the media and they're not buying the Harris campaign's closing argument that he's some great to our democracy, because they lived under him for 4 years as president, and our democracy and our country was stronger than it is.
Rather than shrinking in the face of their predictable elitist jabs, Leavitt did what many before her failed to do. She pushed back with intelligence, composure, and most importantly, facts. Right away, she refused to let Behar's words go unchallenged, making it clear that her success wasn't the result of her appearance, but years of dedication, political expertise, and effective communication, qualities that made her a serious threat to the View's out-of-touch panel of self-proclaimed intellectuals. She exposed the absurdity of reducing a woman's accomplishments to her looks, especially coming from a show that constantly claims to champion women's empowerment. The contradiction was impossible to ignore. The View loves to act as if they uplift women, but the moment a woman doesn't align with their left-leaning views, they tear her down using the exact methods they claim to oppose. And let's be honest, this wasn't just Joy Behar making a casual, snide remark. This was part of The View's broader pattern of attempting to discredit conservative women by portraying them as inexperienced, unserious, or mere eye candy for their male colleagues. We've seen it happen before, whether with Kayleigh McEnany, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, or Elise Stefanik. Every time a young, articulate conservative woman gains prominence, the media rushes to undermine her credibility.
She said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason, because Black people couldn't get into colleges, because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women.
Yeah.
See, this is not Black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our asses to make sure that this was a person's world. So please stop using that phrase and talk about, because you don't understand what you're saying. You're saying about yourself that, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we were fighting for, so that you could stand in that podium, so that Catherine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium. So women of all kinds of colors and ilks, wherever they came from, whatever their belief system was, they had the opportunity to bust down that door.
The View once again resorted to its usual tactics, launching a lazy and sexist attack, assuming it would go unnoticed. But this time, it completely backfired. Leavitt didn't just highlight the double standard. She made sure to remind Behar and the panel that her position wasn't handed to her. She earned it. Unlike The View's hosts, who built their careers by speaking over others and catering to an audience that already agrees with them, Leavitt worked her way up in the political world, facing real scrutiny and competition. She pointed out that while they sit around gossiping and throwing cheap insults, she's out in the real world shaping political discourse and making an impact. The moment quickly went viral, with viewers calling out The View's blatant hypocrisy. Social media exploded with clips of Leavitt shutting down Behar's remarks, with people across the political spectrum agreeing that the attack wasn't just unnecessary, it was entirely self-defeating. Even those who don't align with Leavitt politically couldn't deny that she had exposed a major flaw in The View's treatment of women in politics. The show claims to support strong, independent women, but only if they adhere to its ideology. The moment a woman dares to think differently, she's suddenly reduced to nothing more than a pretty face who doesn't belong at the table. And as if things couldn't get any worse for The View, their attempt to embarrass Leavitt ended up backfiring, spectacularly. Behar's smug remark didn't just seem mean-spirited. It revealed an underlying insecurity among The View's panel. Unable to challenge Leavitt on her merits, they resorted to petty personal attacks. Instead of addressing her political viewpoints, they fixated on her appearance, which only made them look weak. It was a textbook case of projection. Rather than acknowledging that a young conservative woman had risen through the ranks on her own abilities, they spun a false narrative to fit their worldview. Even sources within ABC reportedly admitted that the backlash was worse than anticipated. Executives had already been growing tired of the show's endless controversies, and this latest incident only added to their mounting PR problems. One insider even suggested that some higher-ups were beginning to question whether Behar, who has been on the show for decades, was doing more harm than good. While The View thrives on stirring up debates, there's a fine line between controversy and outright problematic behavior. And this moment crossed that line in a way the network could no longer ignore. What truly cemented this as a disaster for The View was how Leavitt handled the aftermath. She didn't play the victim. She didn't complain. Instead, she used the situation to prove exactly why she belongs in the political arena.